Well, let's look at what happened so far in the fourth turn. For the most part, I've taken the Catholic action. Well, I've taken all the Catholic actions. Kind of complicated situation to try to remember because I did a lot. First problem is the second echelon wing was in charge. It fell into rally. No. Yeah. In order to try to recover those, all the open formation units. Now, a lot of them are going to come up the hill and end up in formation shaken anyway, and this isn't going to do much good. But I actually couldn't move forward because I'm screened by the left flank, which I've got jammed too far over here, which is just causing a traffic jam. Moving to the left wing, that switch is still in make ready, but I believe Tilly got them into, I don't remember. Somehow or another, he basically started rallying in his units. I don't know if he stayed in make ready. He certainly got multiple activations. There was an attempt to trump those activations. Actually, we had a no continue on this. We now have one here because there was another trump. Over here, Liechtenstein, his unit was in terrible shape. We can see the second echelons in rally. That's hard to, that's an annoying situation, and I probably shouldn't have done that. But, you know, I'm just getting so frustrated trying to move these damn things. The left wing was in received charge. Now, before it went, I activated this right wing of the Protestants, and they fired their artillery and kind of moved their line up a little bit, but they can only move one hex. The big thing with this was we needed to rally this cav back here that routed away. And, well, I moved Liechtenstein so that he could command the other units that were along the front here. And these guys finally got to fire at the Hedgehog, and they did some damage. Then I got another activation. And you see I'm back in charge again. That was so that I could move this unit forward with introduction fire, do another fire round, and then launch a melee attack against a Hedgehog. Now, a Hedgehog has a slight advantage on the heavies that aren't in Hedgehog formation, but with the leader, with everything else, I had a pretty good bonus. Unfortunately, I rolled a 0, or something along that line, and yeah, it couldn't have been a 0. It ended up defender morale shaken, so it must have been a 1, or maybe I cheated. But Liechtenstein got injured in the fight. We'll see if he's dead or not at the end of the round, probably, or at least knocked out of the fight. And these guys are shaken. All they did was pushed it back. They didn't really get the kind of result they wanted. They wanted to break that big unit. It's only a 13. It's not one of these big 20 units that's worth extra points. But I've got to try to collapse the line somewhere. We've got one unit routing off the map. That's the only effect that I've done so far on, well, other than these musketeers and, of course, the withdrawal. But I'm just not getting any purchase against the Protestants and having a really hard time with it. Still got some Protestant units. See, these command markers over on here really disturb me. I'm much happier. I know a lot of people must like them there, but I'm much happier keeping them right in with the units, if I can figure out where they are, that have them, because that way I can see what we have. Anyway, I have 2 more commands to fire off there and see how they work. For the Protestants. I'm not expecting any big pushes there, just basically trying to, you know, recover and avoid getting overrun by those Catholics somehow. And well, finishing up the turn, the Protestants, hey, I actually did something with them and it was probably a bad move. I flipped these guys from receive charge into charge so that I could move, well, not really for that, but so that I could try to charge these guys off the Hedgehog. I figured if I could get control of this whole area, well, the horses that went up a hill, got formation shaken. They ended up getting blown back, driven back. Ah, shit. Anyway, I positioned myself up here on this Hedgehog, moved up here shook my formation of my infantry. And then I rolled again, dropping myself back into receive charge so that I could rally this unit. But my intention had been kind of to get all these things out of hedgehogs so that they could start fighting. Well, that's not really working because I didn't get these cav off my back. This one I would have kept there. But as you can see, whenever I try to do something in this game, I seem to just make things worse for whichever side. Now I gotta check to see if Liechtenstein comes back. No, he counts as dead over on the thing, and we're gonna have to find his wing, which is 1E. And I'll just put them somewhere. Alright, well that pushes us into the 5th turn. I'll recuperate the stuff that recuperates. These routing units are going to come off the map. Thought I had forgotten to fire this artillery, but there's kind of an interesting thing going on here. I can't fire it at the stuff that's right near me, but I can shoot it 3 hexes away at, say, the other end of this, or fire it over the heads of these guys. These guys are shielded up against the line of the wall. I'll shoot at this big guy here. It's a 4-pound gun. Morale shaken. That's a -1, I think. Yeah. 4-pound gun at range 3 is fine. It's got some chance of doing a formation hit or something. And it does. So we break up the advance over there just to make things a little bit more pleasant. Anyway, that's about it. Not much going on until he's standing out here getting pounded at by this really heavy gun here that's doing nothing. This gun Plinkton here got a formation break on that unit. For the most part, the Protestants holding here. Back here, well, the remainder of this Catholic line pushed forward again with the heavy infantry, doing introduction fire. Their formation shaken, it wasn't very effective, and they did 2 rounds of it actually. They got a continuation and wanted to roll for another continuation rather than try to do the melee because that hedgehog was tough. Then the colonel who was in charge removed the hedgehog so he can trade fire because he feels like he's in this losing situation. Well, the reaction fire to that, both of these units, and this is something that's interesting, there are no markers for this. When a unit reaction fires, and I always forget because there are no markers, if it's a heavy infantry and it rolls a 5 or higher, it doesn't get another reaction fire for the rest of the turn. Well, these guys both did, and they did a couple of hits to it, ended up breaking its morale and running it. If I had more actions to take, I could conceivably move forward and try to do something, but as it stood, I wanted to make sure what I could. Anyway, all I've got left at this point is the 2nd Imperial line, which is still screened by these damn sorry, Imperials or League? I can't remember who's who. Yeah, these are the League forces. So the first the League units are in front of this 2nd line. I haven't been able to get it through, and the 1st line is still kind of in front too. The only thing I can do is keep rallying and playing with the overall commander back there. I think I was misplaying this gun here. It's I don't think it could have hit any of this Tilly unit. Anyway, the Tilly units finally end up in good enough order, and I managed to get a charge result for once. Up the hill I go. Both guns went. Drove some of the cav out, but it was kind of a mixed result. This guy got repulsed by this cav, and it's kind of a mess here. Here's the casualties we have. It's still not going as an overall Catholic victory, but it's looking like I'm gaining some terrain that if I had gotten kind of lucky and gotten a charge, although it looked hopeless and maybe I didn't roll for all of them earlier, I might have been able to punch through this line. And it may be better to go flat across. You know, this little traffic jam I created here just created hell for me. I don't know if I told you about what's going on down here, but as you can see, they kind of drove through down here as well. So the Catholics are actually doing quite well. It's too bad for them that it's so late in the day. They're not going to be able to gain the terrain hexes they need. An extra 40 or 50 points, I think, would probably bring this close to the draw level. Let me take a look at what my... I doubt it. They need those points as well as to kill a lot of units. And I don't feel like they've done damage that's all that much more than what they took. Remember, they got 10 more points for the Transylvanians, but yeah, I don't feel like this is going well for them either way you take it. Going up that hill is just painful. I don't remember too much. I don't remember if I really looked at the rules in the 5.0 edition, which was what came out with Nothing Gained But Glory. But we're seeing some differences in the rules from the original Hull rules that I saw playing out in terms of, for example, withdrawal. In the old section of the rules, I look at this, Cav can always run away from infantry. Now, not if they're charging. Infantry can march up and engage Cav. That's a big difference. I was used to the Cav kind of fading away from the infantry. I'm not sure, which one I favor, but I do realize this game ain't playing the way I remember it. And it's because, well, some key factors of the rules are changed in it from the first version that I looked at, which was the Gustavus Adolphus the Great. I'm not sure which way I favor. It kind of feels to me that even charging Cav would be willing to peel away from infantry, but that may not apply in this period. I'm not sure, but I certainly remember things like the arquebusiers being unwilling to be engaged in the period preceding this, preceding the middle of the 30 Years' War. And I kind of felt like that should apply here. And it feels kind of funny to have arquebusiers being pinned down and are being attacked by infantry that are just charging at them. I thought they were a little bit more shy of melee than that. Oh well. Another note, for whatever reason, the rulebook has gotten significantly thicker. Not in terms of total pages. It's only at 32 pages here. But it's denser. Look at the type font. It's different. There's a lot more words on this than there are in this. And this only comes in at 28 pages. So there's probably significant changes. And I see the little markers on this one saying, hey, there aren't a lot of changes between the 5.0 and the 6.0. So my feeling is that the new designers who've kind of taken it over have taken the game into a slightly different direction than I remember. I certainly feel like there's an emphasis that isn't quite what hooked me on the games. And I would almost... there may be a realism emphasis on this new one, or at least one designer, or the two new designers' view of the realism, their model. But it feels a little bit more heavy in terms of I have to really think hard to figure out what I'm doing with my pieces. And at first I thought it was just the terrain issue. But I'm beginning to think there's just more pieces in the rule book. And as we push to the end of the 6th turn, and we got one more turn to go, an infantry unit did just that, charged down at some cav, and, well, it routed afterwards. So it's not necessarily a terrible thing. Cav is very potent in this game, as I found out in That Accursed Civil War, which was kind of the first time that I started using Cav directly against infantry, and it does have a possibility to break it. The hedgehogs are almost overkill, it feels like, in some ways, because the Cav has a disadvantage on attacking the infantry anyway. And once you get into hedgehog, you can't really attack. I've had these couple of hedgehogs, and I had this one up there. They were basically pinned for the game while they were there, which is fine because I'm playing kind of delaying with the Protestants. But but the infantry stands a good chance receiving the cav. I kind of want to look at the old charts and see, gee, are they all the same? Because I don't really remember. Certainly in that accursed Civil War, I found them doing well, but they were high morale cav. Here it's about equal. The cav isn't tremendously better at morale. Some of it's good, but anyway, the main line here opened fire, and I was considering making an attack here. I didn't make it, and this poor battered unit is not going to attack back in its state. So that's the end of our turn, and we'll see. Looks like we're going to be able to free up maybe some of those Imperials that I didn't get to move. I'm going to try to get this all in one video. Continuing into this seventh and final turn. The Catholics were going first. They had a couple of units in charge formation. Here they dealt out some fire and drove heavy away. Reloaded, managed to switch from charge to receive charge then. Some more fire, and they also managed to reload some of their pistols. Hope was, hey, another action, maybe get to chase a couple of these units off the board, whatever. Well, that didn't happen. There was a momentum attempt that failed, but so they managed to get their momentum. Then I go over to Tilly, and he also has gotten a momentum. I haven't gone into the second round of it. He's not finished yet. We had a failed attempt to. I can't remember the word they use in this game. Preempt, essentially. Yeah, preemption. Great. But I wanted to highlight something kind of interesting that's happening with Tilly. So I've been kind of trying everything to see, you know, can the Catholics kind of deal out some damage making their way up this hill. The final thing was trying to reform in front of enemy units. And oh boy, is that painful. I lost a couple of units just getting shot at with no response. You know, it's not like I could attack in the condition I was in, but I guess I could kind of withdraw from the position. Of course, that would attract fire too. But it's really tough once you're kind of shot up to try to recover right in the line of fire. And that makes sense. It's just, I'm trying to get some kind of grasp on, is there something I'm missing here as to why the Catholics should be able to take White Mountain? I trust the designers that, yeah, this is a blowout in their favor, and that I'm the one who's just not getting things, because that's been the case in some of the others that they've put out in the Nothing Gained But Glory game. Hull's original games, I don't feel like I was facing a trick that I couldn't understand after this much play. I still don't get how the Catholics are supposed to take this location. Even with speed, even if you took speed out of it, if you made this a long-term thing, it's really tough to gain these locations. But with the 7-turn time limit and a massive victory condition, this thing feels impossible to me. That may just be showing how incompetent I am, though. Well, finding more areas where I've forgotten little rules. One of the cute things about this game is when you hit a certain threshold, and I knew this, your morale goes down. But you also take an immediate morale hit. And I forgot about the morale hit. Anyway, that ended up breaking this unit, but I think there were probably some units that should have broken earlier, which may have made the situation a little easier. I'm not sure. Anyway, we got one big fire happened here, driving a fairly large double-sized unit, just 10 points, away from the mountain. And again, you know, it looks like the Catholics have the strength. It's just they don't have the time. And in the case of this particular scenario, you got to match basically the historical victory, which was a tremendous one. And it's not a matter of the battle would naturally end for some reason at 2 p.m. Personally, I would rather see the battle continuing. You know, when it comes down to it, the fact that it only took 2 hours That's impressive. Maybe it should be worth some victory points, but it really is not important in the overall view of things. The overall view is you want to win the battle, right? And being pressured to charge up the hill willy-nilly, while that may fit the historical battle, doesn't really fit, I think, the reasons the battle's being fought. And that just disturbs me. At the very least, I don't mind if you put some kind of victory point pressure to match that thing, but it feels to me like the battle should continue another 4 or 5 turns. Just a minor gripe. I don't like when games cut off and say, yeah, if you didn't win it by this historical point, you lost. No. I may have lost the game, but I'm not worried about the game. I don't play a game like this just to see the game. I also want to see the battle develop. And obviously I could extend it more turns, but I'm not going to because I think I've mucked this one up enough that I'd like to start another one. But yeah, now we're on the Protestant turns. We finished up with whoever the hell is in charge here, Teuflenbach. And, you know, the Protestants don't really have to do anything. I was trying to punch through with that Second Imperial wing to try to get at some of these units that are routing. Now, they'll probably leave, but I have a chance, no continuation, but a chance of trying to rally some of them. We'll see how that goes. I could slip into rally, for example, and fix them. And just a little bit of cleanup at the end, some final rally attempts that failed. This guy, I can never remember who's where. See, they don't put the wing still on the back of the counters. The front of the counter has the wing on it. The back of the counter never does. And that's one of my little gripes that's always been through this series was you got to flip the counters over. There's piles of counters. You know, it's an annoyance, a big annoyance actually. But I usually love the series so much that I don't mind. But I feel like I either am not approaching the rules well enough here, or yeah, whatever. All right. So what we've got, I missed this, but I'm going to ignore it. What the hell? I think it's a foregone conclusion. I'll count up the losses and see what happens, but basically the Catholics didn't get any of the location points. This one, well, actually they hold this one with a broken unit. Hohenlohe shot that up. It had nowhere to retreat to, so it took extra losses just as it kind of melted away because it's got units in the front of it. Now those are only, that's another grump I have. I feel like routes through should be a possibility, but I don't think that applies. But maybe not everywhere, but when you're talking about musketeers and a big pike formation falling apart, you know, I don't know. Anyway, I'll count my points, come up with what the total was. So, by my view, the battle was pretty much a stalemate up to this point. The question, of course, is, would the Catholics have won? Well, would they have played differently if they weren't charging kind of crazily up the hill and allowed to deploy slowly, as would be my nature? And, well, no, they wouldn't have taken as much. Losses were actually approximately equal. We got 123 to 94 in total losses points. One of the reasons for the big bonus is the captured artillery that the Catholics managed to take, and the damaged artillery. That's just kind of an advantage of being on the attack. Along with the ground things. Oh, do those 20-point things go either way? Because if they do, that's 50 more points again, so that's even worse. But anyway, the difference is well under the 85 or less that's required for a Protestant victory. So, yeah, these just go to the Catholics, the extra points for the terrain. So, you know, in terms of total losses, it was more or less a draw because of the terrain, which is really, really bad for the Catholics, as far as I'm concerned. All those slopes. If you approach an open order, you've got penalties all over the place. But if you don't approach an open order, well, you're going to get them anyway, because eventually you crest the top of White Mountain and you end up formation shaken. So, I mean, obviously making the approach in open order, but I think you have to actually assault in open order. We saw what the effect of being in formation shaken or open order when you assault was, and it's not terribly good. So this is rough terrain that I would want a lot more time to take this location than the scenario gives, but there's no reason the history of the battle wouldn't give it that I can see. All right, up it goes.